Tickets on sale now.
Lens Rentals versus Lenny's Rentals. Difference number 9.
At Lens Rentals, when you place an order, everything is organized and packaged in a rugged, custom-fitted case.
Is no big deal. At Lenny's Rentals, we love to custom. Sometimes box, sometimes tube, sometimes big. Always custom.
Custom, organized cases. Just one more reason to use Lens Rentals.
Or you could go lens.
LensRentals.com. Shoot with the best.
Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 1 of the Midwest Gaming Classic Podcast. I am your host, Jason Gares, Panel Director of the Midwest Gaming Classic. And boy, oh boy, what a 2025 show it was. And let me tell you, there is so many things that had happened at the show. It was just too much to cover. There was just so much going on. I had to bring in co-owner Dan Lucen and Entertainment Director Matt Isbill on this very show this week to talk about some of the things that happened at this year's show. And you know what? Enough of me talking. Why don't we get to the podcast? I am here with Midwest Gaming Classic co-owner Dan Lucen and the manager of the entertainment that goes on at Midwest Gaming Classic, Matt Isbill. I am so honored to have you guys back on the show, actually quite early this year, discussing, well, the show. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us back right away.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back. What a 2025 it was.
And it was. Wow. And as a matter of fact, getting into what a 2025 it was, Matt was actually, actually surprised to see me doing one particular thing at the after party. Can you tell everybody what that was?
I never thought I'd see Jason Gares dance so much in my life at the after party. Like, I'm hanging out where Denise and Alex are DJing, and all of a sudden I look out and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Jason out there having a great time, dancing, having fun. Like, it was really cool to see that everyone got to enjoy themselves this year and not just think about working and, putting on a great event. We all got to let our hair down a little bit and have some fun.
Yeah, things ran very smoothly. And one of the behind the scenes things that a lot of people, I'm sure, don't know, because it's not something that we talk about too often, is that we spread out further. We've been doing this for a number of years, but we spread out further the amount of people that had show responsibilities. And this was the first year that it really felt kind of comfortable for most of us in just how much was done and who was doing things and stuff like that. And you also got to see me, Jason, for a period of time on Saturday doing something that you would never expect. What did you see me doing?
Well, you were actually at a panel, and that specific panel was with his name is escaping me, from Mystery Science Theater 2000.
Jonah Ray.
Jonah Ray, thank you very much. Yes,
Yep.
Jonah Ray, ripping the cave. And yep, it was near the end, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, I've got more time, Jonah says. I'm like, what? Where? What? And then JP points over by you, because I didn't see you come in. I was, horse blinders on, making sure everything was running okay. And then there you are. You're like,
Yeah. Well, for the record, I wasn't the one who said that this has to have more time. I had texted JP, who's the other guy who runs that hall with you, and I had said, if the next one has a quick changeover, let him go longer, because I knew how much time was left in the video. Something that I didn't realize was happening until during that panel was that he had never seen the movie before. And so I had seen the movie before I sent it to him. And I was kind of, when I got there at probably 20 or 25 minutes past the hour. I started like looking at my watch and thinking to myself, like, oh, crud, he's like 10 minutes into a 30-minute like infomercial here. I wonder if he's going to make it. Like, if he's going to finish, he needs to, and he was pausing it. So, like in Mystery Science Theater, they don't generally pause, they just
Right.
say stuff over stuff. And because he was pausing it, and I would say that he was doing 50% of the time pausing, I very quickly did the math and was like, uh-oh, he is going to be, right now, it looks like he will be done at about 5:05. And that infomercial has just such wacky things in it that I was like, oh man, some of this would be so good to see. So I had texted Jason and just said, if it's possible for you guys to do a quick changeover, like I know how much video is left. And he was like, yeah, it will be. And so that's why he got a sign from you. And then Jason was like, no, 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 you can go 10 minutes beyond that. And that's why there was that confusion, was because you hadn't seen JP get that and then interpret that way. So,
Right.
but it was awesome.
Yeah, the
I
people were
was,
rolling.
what was that?
People were just rolling.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was everything that I had hoped that panel was going to be. And I love Mystery Science Theater and always have. And I love the Atari Jaguar and always have. And the panel was about an infomercial for the Atari Jaguar. It will eventually be on the podcast. And I knew what was going to go on in it because I was the one that had suggested it. So in some ways, it was kind of like a dream come true. Like, you get to recommend a Mystery Science Theater thing for them to do. And I did. And then it was as funny, if not funnier, than I could have imagined. So it was a great time. And I was hoping to get in for 5 minutes. And then I got in there and it was amazing because I sat down and I pulled up my phone and like I ended up texting back and forth with people a few times throughout it, but I did not have to stop and like have a lack of being able to stay or pay attention throughout that time. I got busier right afterwards, but for like 30 minutes, I had a little bit of time.
Well, it was it was amazing seeing you in the panel room. I haven't seen you in the panel room in
You haven't seen me in the panel room ever because I can tell you the last time that I was in a panel and it was 2004. And
Wow.
I know what happened in that panel because we had Gene Cunningham, who owned a company, Illinois Pinball, and they announced that they were going to make a game, Big Bang Bar. It was a Capcom game that Capcom had never finished, and they announced that they were going to make it and that he was taking deposits. And that was actually the first time that ever happened. Later on, he did a different panel at a different show, and everybody says that that's when he unveiled it, but he unveiled it at our show, but there was only like 30 or 40 people in the room at the time that he did, and I don't think that anybody actually gave him deposits. Although I remember that very clearly because I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, it would be so cool to own one of these, and then wishing that I could come up with the money for it and not being able to sniff the money to get one. That game is now one of the rarest pinball machines because he did complete them, and it sells for like 20 plus $1,000 whenever it sells.
whoa.
Yeah, and it would have been like six if I would have bought it. So it would have been an inflation beater for the
Yeah, I
last few
think so.
years. Yeah.
Matt, tell us some of the exciting things that you were part of and that you witnessed, and yeah, take it from there.
I mean, I love that now it's like I get to be a part of the official kickoff now that we have this showcase. And it's like last year we pushed the testing ground, and as Dan and I always say, hey, we see how it works and then we fix it and we make it better next year. And
Hmm.
I feel like we finally hit that this year. And it was the coolest. That was one of my favorite parts because it opened, obviously, Brian Koenig, have a fantastic opener up on the main stage kicking it off. But about 5 minutes into Brian, I looked around and I said, oh, there's a lot of people sitting out here. And it was really cool to be able to see that and just have the official kickoff. And then, being a part of helping the main stage and the bonus stage and the cosplay stage, all the stages that were happening this year. And the one thing I want to give a quick shout out to everybody like Devin, and there's other people I know I'm forgetting here. Matt Kiefer, Josh and his team, Greek and them, they all pulled everything together to the point whereas I only needed to be around something if I needed a phone call. Like they like phone call, all right, I'll be right there. But other than that, it just went so smooth and I can't do it without all of them. They really made my life so easy that weekend. But seeing that was incredible. My highlight, and I told Dan this, I was like, dude, I've had a lot of highlights in my life, in my career, even with Monster Jam. But my highlight probably in my career was Saturday morning. I got to co-host and co-announce with Tim Kitzrow the pep rally. Like I didn't when Tim was gonna do this pep rally thing, it was supposed to be just Tim, and I was going through with Tim. He's like, "Well, you're gonna be out there with me." I was like, "No, no, no, Tim, this is just you." "Oh no, you're out there with me," and I'm like, "Okay." So that was the coolest thing. Just me and Dan line, getting the line all set up, and we're looking like, dude, there's a line. Like it went all the way back, and Tim and I are just going up and down the hallway, letting people in. And then I guess the other highlight is watching how far the after party has taken off because Dan, we started that in 2018.
2018, yes.
Yeah, 2018. And when tickets were rolling, he called me or I called him and be like, "Hey, should we stop selling tickets?" "Hey, should we stop selling tickets?" Because we had so many people wanting to come to the after party, and I've never seen so many people just let loose to have a good time. And I'm not just talking about the fans that buy the tickets, right? This is where I said, our staff, not just you, Jason, but I saw JP out there having a good time. I saw Kiefer out there having a great time. And then the everybody from Devil May Cry, they were out there having fun. Swoggle coming up on stage having fun. Christopher Sean, Carolina, everybody just having so much fun. And I think I finally got to take that step back. So Dan's got to sit in a panel for 30 minutes. And I got to sit there and take that step back at the after party for once and just look around and be like, this is the coolest thing. And everyone's just smiling, having fun. And for 3 days, nobody worried about anything. And I think this is the first year our whole team. Was anybody like really hardcore stressed that weekend when you really think about it? Like, was there like these hardcore stresses that we usually have at MGC? It was like we had our little things, but I never thought I would be in the Ranger Lounge with Chris and David sitting down for a couple minutes. I got to do that this year and sit down for a couple minutes and just hang out. Like everyone was just so happy this year, from the staff to the fans. I think that was just my favorite part. I know that was a long-winded answer, but it's like that was my favorite. Everyone was just so happy this year.
Yeah, well, and I'm gonna just kind of tag on to one quick thing that Matt said. When he had said the thing about how we were talking about like what do we do with after party tickets, after party has always been a part of VIG. And 2 or 3 years ago, we started selling after party separately because we had people that were asking, "Oh, I can't be there all 3 days, but I really want to go to the after party." Or like, "Oh, my husband is going to do the VIG, but I'm not going to be able to. So is it possible for you to whatever?" And we started selling them. Last year, we sold 5. This year, we cut it off when we had sold well over 100 tickets. And we cut it off because we were like, we don't know. We had increased VIG slightly this year. We have to make a decision on how much we're going to increase VIG by like 3 months before, because there's games that are produced and stuff like that. And so there's a longer lead time. So we had increased VIG, and it's where we've always wanted it to be and where I intend to keep it, which is 500 people. And so it had been 400. And so we went from 400 to 500, and then we went from 5 additional tickets sold to 100. And we went, "Oh, we went from 400 people to 600. How is this going to work out?" And the answer was it worked out great. And people had a blast. Here's one that I don't know if you're aware of, but one of the people that called me and said that their favorite thing was the after party was Dan Kitchen from Activision.
Activision.
And
Really?
Yeah, because
No, you didn't tell me that.
He was like, it's really cool. I've never gotten the chance to sit and play with like a cool band in the background, my games, and feel like I was a rock star. And I did. And I was just like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and they played with a foot controller. So it's not like you were playing it in a regular way. It was a really unique experience. And that's part of what the after party is about, is coming up with unique experiences that we can give people. And it really fell into place really positively this year, as did most things. I mean, One of the things that I will also say, and sorry to add a long-winded answer to a long-winded answer, but the other day I was looking through our social media and we had someone that was like, "Oh man, this person's already committed to coming back to Tabletop Village next year," and they just said TTV. That place is going to be fire next year, and I was like, "What in the world is TTV?" And I was like, "Oh my God, that's Tabletop Village." For people that don't know, Tabletop Village was created this year. And so Matt kind of alluded to this. We talk about that there's usually a 3-year cycle with anything that we add to the show. The first year, we do it and it kind of sucks and we figure out what sucks about it, and then we figure out how to make it good. The second year, we make it good, but people don't really know that it exists. And then the third year, we can promote it, and then it like becomes the whole package of like, oh, this is great, and all this stuff happens. Tabletop Village, we were concerned because we were moving tabletop from 3 smaller rooms into a room that was significantly larger. And I walked into that room on Saturday at around noon, and there was almost no tables that were free. Jamie from Milcog, which is the tabletop group, told me that there was past about noon on Saturday, there was never a point on Saturday where there wasn't a line to check out games, and that most of the time the line was 15 to 30 minutes long, and no one complained. And he said, we've never been at a show that all of our tables were used 100% of the time. They even borrowed 7 additional tables to run more games on.
Actually, I remember. I'm gonna interrupt you here.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think I'm
I
basically
remember,
done,
I
but
remember one time, no, 2 times that all the tables were filled in the tabletop gaming area, and that was back at the Sheraton
yes.
when it
Well,
was
and that was
Yeah.
when it was
in
in the
the
lobby, and there
entryway.
was, yep, and that was like 6 tables.
Yes.
And so now this year, I believe that we had roughly 200 tables in there. And like for instance, the Magic tournament last year had, I think it was 31 people that signed up for it. This year it had 119 or something like that. It's just like everything like that just worked. And the people that were helping to do stuff, everything from the leadership team all the way down to the individuals that were running events, um, it just flowed. And so, if anything, there was a little bit of stress with some of us, but the stress that it really came into was some of us were really stressed because we didn't know what to be stressed about. And the end,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And I've had a couple other people that I've talked with since the show that were like, I was really frustrated on Saturday or on Friday, and I don't know why. And I was like, I was too, but I was realizing like I am literally walking to places and I have no value add. And I realized it because I walked into the museum, and the museum was, as always, just incredible this year. And I had some huge compliments on that too, where people had said that there is nothing like it in the world. And I've always believed that, but I also don't go to every other show or anything like that. So, who knows exactly what that means and if it's true or not. But I was I walked in the museum at one point on like Friday at like 10 a.m. And I was like, oh my God, like we need to do more and I don't know what to do. And I haven't been involved with setting up the museum for years. I just kind of passed the keys over to people like JD and his crew. There's like 30 different people and Marty and his crew that they can all do that. And so I walk in and I'm like, oh my God, I think we're behind. And JD walks over and goes, we have never been this far ahead ever. And I was just like, well, that proves that I don't know what I'm talking about. And so once that happened, it made me very aware that wherever I was going, I was really there. And what I should be there for is both to see whatever is going on and talk to the people that brought it and thank them for bringing it. And then also be there for any major issues that we have. That is kind of the role that I get to play now. And I got to do that. And that was really cool. This is the first year in at least since we've been at the Baird Center, if not longer, that I actually made it into every room and talked with everybody who came. And that's awesome.
Well, it's really, really good to hear. It's good to hear that the new organization that we have with the leadership team helped you and helped Gabby out enjoy the convention really the first time in many, many years, to where a lot of the weight was lifted off of your shoulders and you were able to enjoy it. Matt was able to enjoy it. Gabby was, and everybody else.
Yeah.
able to enjoy certain aspects that they normally don't get a
Right.
chance to go to.
Here's kind of a funny stat. And before I guess I say this, I will say that in the history of the show, it's not that I don't enjoy doing it or anything like that. It's just that it's usually so when we moved to the Baird Center at the time, the Wisconsin Center, when we moved to the Baird Center, we didn't really understand what a huge change that would be to the amount of what's the right word for it? The amount of like scope that a lot of people had for what they were bringing. And so at the Baird Center, everybody was constrained. And I'll give you a perfect example. Stern Pinball, which brought 57 pinball machines this year, brought 4 pinball machines to the final year at the Wisconsin Center. I'm sorry, at the final year at the Sheraton. And the difference was simply they literally couldn't bring any more than that and have them fit. Whereas as soon as we moved, we had all this more space. And so that also then changed a ton of stuff for them in the way of how they could use this to promote their games, how they could use this to sell more games, all these different things that happen. And all of that's great, but all of that takes time and effort and stuff like that. And so the first year, some people know this, is I was not intending to go full time on the show. I had completed a different job that I did not want to return to. And so I had some money saved up. I live in a really old house that seems to always have issues. And so I was going to spend a year fixing the house 2 days a week, doing a part-time job 2 days a week, substitute teaching actually, and then working on the show 1 day a week. And that was fully expected that it'll be fine. We'll be able to do this. And, no problem. 8 hours a week is more than Dan was spending on the show back at the Sheraton. And then that year, I was spending like literally hundreds of hours a week on, well, not hundreds, but 800 hours a week on trying to figure out the show because everybody was calling me and being like, oh, so we've got more space. I can bring this, I can bring that. And that's when we were like, okay, this is now a full-time thing. And like it was, but even that, it was still expanding. And we got to the point right before COVID where we started to pass off some of the stuff, but then COVID happened. And then what really set us back for a number of years was twofold. Number one, we had essentially no money to do anything with, which made it really hard to upgrade certain things. Like, for instance, this year we spent a lot of money on rolling carts, which doesn't sound exciting at all, but saved us hours upon hours of time leaving on Friday or on Sunday night. And it saved us hours upon hours of organization compared to last year. Last year, everything came to the show. And once we got it to the show, I had to like dig through it all and be like, take this box to the front, take this box to the museum, take this box to here. And like, I was literally going down to boxes that were like this size and being like, oh, this is for the museum. Take this one to the museum. And that's hugely problematic. This year, oh, here's the cart for the museum. Boop. And the museum had all their stuff. And so that was a huge thing that we just weren't able to do. And all of this is to say that it's not that we didn't want to. It's not that we were like stupid and didn't think that this was something that needed to be done. It was just a combination of either COVID or money, or like, as people know, when you're training someone to do something, it takes time. And so like, Jason, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but you did workshops this year and you were great at it, but you also asked me a whole bunch of questions, which is absolutely fine. And that means that next year you won't have to ask me as many questions, but it means that I need to make sure that I'm answering those questions and stuff like that. And so this was the first year that we finally had the ability to do that. And it was awesome because now we have people such as yourself that can like run and can make these areas so much better than like workshops have always been something that I think is really important to the show. And it's kind of been like yeah, it's an afterthought. And now it doesn't have to be because we have someone that can be awesome at them.
Well, that was a mouthful, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it was, but
thanks. I mean, looking at how things run, doing it for so long with the show, the regular person doesn't understand what a juggling act that it is, and the intricacies of how everything runs, and you want everything to mesh, and there's just a lot that goes on. And I did say, it was a mouthful what you said, but isn't the convention? I mean, it's all there's a lot going on. And as a matter of fact, with a lot of things going on, I do have a question for Matt, and that's the Bite Off Awards. Can you tell our audience about the Bite Off Awards and how that?
So I got to see a glimpse of it. I helped Joe and them get all set up, try to get underway. They bring a lot of homebrew creators to our event every single year. I mean, and I finally got to take a look at that too this year. That was another thing too, because I remember when we started with them at the Baird Center, it was, as Dan said, House Stern at the Sheridan. They were only able to have so many. And when they first came in at the Baird Center when we moved, it was a few of them. And then I looked this year, I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of creators here this year. And it like just fully expanded. But they did this incredible award show. It was about 45 minutes where they gave awards away for like best game design, best game. And you can actually see it now. They have the whole thing uploaded online. You could go to our Facebook. It's up there for you to check out. And I do highly recommend it. Joe and the team are great. And I'm actually going to be working with Joe a lot more closely for next year for 2026 because he wants to do things like just streamline it a little bit more, and we're going to work together. But it was a really cool atmosphere, and there's going to be more pictures posted too. But it's unique to our event, and that's the one thing that's, again, what we are different about at the Midwest Gaming Classic, right? We're not like, a lot of other events where you see a lot of the same thing. Here we do things differently, and nobody does the Bite Off Awards. We do it. We get to do it at our event, and I think that's really cool. Wouldn't you say so, Dan?
Yeah, one thing that I will add that I don't know if it's known is that the winner of the Bite Off Awards generally becomes the VIG game the following year.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's right.
so it's part of NES Maker, and NES Maker is a program that Joe helped develop. I think that it was Joe and one other person. I may be wrong.
It was Joe and somebody else. I actually met him that weekend, and his name is spacing me. It was him and one other person.
Perfect. And so what they do with that is that they take the games and they've for years done this awards program, and now they do it in real life at our show. And when they started, they had just a few developers, and now they have, I don't know, hundreds, if not thousands of developers throughout the world that are making new NES games. And it's fascinating because just like the NES was a really creative time for gaming, where you could get a game that didn't really fit into any other type of genre or whatever, they're doing the same type of thing. The game that we had this year for VIG was Pizza Portals, and Pizza Portals was where you had two characters moving through a scene, and both of them had different obstacles, and you had to pay attention to both so that you would jump over. Like if there's an obstacle on the bottom one, when you press the jump button, both would jump. And so you had to be careful, and then it becomes more complex where like you might have something that's moving towards you, but you've got holes up here. And so you have to time your jump to work out with stuff. It's a really unique idea. It's the type of creativity that the NES, I think, breeds. And it's awesome to have those guys involved with the show.
They are incredible.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, and they're going to be back for 2026.
Absolutely. I've
Yeah.
I've been speaking with Joe over the past like 2 weeks.
Great.
Yeah, I don't like to announce things before they're 100% solid. However, I cannot imagine a world where
Yes.
they're not back, because once they integrated with us a number of years ago, they really became a group that they understand the power of the show, which is really that you bring to the show people that want to show what you do to a larger audience. And then the larger audience has people that go, oh, that's really cool. I want to try doing that. And so they pick up every year people that do different games and stuff like that. And then on the flip side, they get to show off what their tools do and how cool things are made to do it. And so it's really a win-win. And then honestly, the VIG game becoming the Bite Off game has just been great. It wasn't that for the first 2 or 3 years that we did it, but I think it's been the Bite Off game ever since. And what's fascinating about that is that, again, you get to see these really unique, fun games. Like we saw Doodle World, and Doodle World after our show got picked up and put on the Nintendo Switch. And there's been a sequel, and was a Kickstarter that was like fully funded in a day or something like that recently for it. And like in large part that happened because of the Midwest Gaming Classic. And that's the power of it, is that, like, I mean, people just heard me talk about how my role now is in many ways like figuring out that, hey, if we get more rolly carts, we can move stuff in and out faster, which is true and important. But what that allows us to do is it allows other people like Joe to be able to come in and set up and expand what he does and find whole new audiences. And that's really the power of the show. And I love the Bite Off Awards because of that. I have not yet watched them, but intend to. It's on my YouTube to watch list currently.
Amon Green. What did he think of the show, and what kind of interactions did the both of you have with him?
Incredible human. Like, I'm sorry, Dan. I'm gonna just start that off. Like,
That's fine.
I got to meet him briefly on Friday for like 5 minutes, and then again, I really didn't get to talk to him until the after party. But I had like a 40-minute conversation with him at the after party. Like, he loved the show. He said he loved just how interactive our event was. Like, that's the one thing he said was his favorite. And he told me, he's like, "Hey man, I just need to tell you, like, I have to be at this event every single year." He's like, "I want to be a part of this from now on."
Wow.
And I was like, "Well, that's an incredible compliment. You know,
Yes.
Green Bay Packer legend, you know, and wants to be a part of the event for that much again." And a lot of times, you know, you get certain celebrities that are around and they don't do a ton of interacting.
Right.
Mont Green interacted with everybody. Like, I mean, everybody. He wanted to play games with everybody. He wanted to. He was doing his like podcast stuff. I saw him. People randomly walking by, and he's just pulling him off and like bringing him on and stuff like that. Like, that is the ultimate way of interaction with a celebrity. And Amon Green just nailed it on the head that weekend.
Yeah, and I would agree with everything that Matt just said, and just add to it that there are people with Midwest Gaming Classic that when you explain to them what it is, there are people that get it and are excited by it, and there are people that don't get it. And candidly, I was concerned because I wasn't sure that Amon was getting what our show was going to be about. And I think, and he would have to answer this in another form, but I think that he's been to some other shows that were definitely not like our show.
Mm.
And he came to me and was just like, this is so much cooler than I had thought that it was going to be. I love this. And he basically said, this is exactly what I've been looking for in a show. And he had gone to other shows where he was wanting to do the same type of interactive stuff. And like the show organizers were kind of like, we don't really do that here. And Midwest Gaming Classic is always all about like, what do you want to do? We'll just enable you to do whatever you want to do.
Right.
And I think that there was some trepidation from him on that to begin with, because he was kind of like, what am I missing on this? And so I was worried at first that he wasn't going to get it, or that maybe it wasn't what he was looking for. And I concur with Matt. He actually texted me Sunday night at like 1 a.m. Oh my
Wow.
God, that was one of the best weekends of my life. Thank you so much for having me. And
That's
I was just
awesome.
like,
Wow.
I had just crawled into bed after we had put everything on the trucks, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So yeah, it's
like a double cool. I mean, it's Amon Green, and it's Amon Green saying, "Dude, great show. I love it." You know, so
yeah. Well, and so I was going to mention this earlier, but one of the things that was also fascinating about this year's show, and I'm hoping that after we put out this podcast, that this isn't going to incite people to like prove me wrong and come to me and complain. But I have not fielded, and it's been 3 weeks basically, I've not fielded any complaints about the show.
Neither have
Oh,
I.
now we're going to get a bunch.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I probably just jinxed us forever. Like I said, my personal, I actually think I said this to you guys beforehand. My personal life has been out of control in the
Right.
way of weird stuff happening since the show. So maybe that's my cosmic thing getting
Yeah,
back,
maybe.
is being like, you didn't have any negativity with the show. So, hey, now we're going to screw up a bunch of stuff with your life. But the show itself, we usually, like, some years we have legitimate complaints. some years we have what I refer to as illegitimate complaints, where we have people that are like, they'll complain about things that we have no control over. There was
Like
one year
why
we
a
had
certain
people.
game didn't show up that somebody didn't.
Exactly. We will have people that are like, well, this game I was expecting to play. And it's never like a game that's new or what you
Yep.
would have any reason to expect would be at the show. It would be like, I was expecting that the game Zookeeper was going to be at the show from 1983, and that is a really cool game, and you didn't have it at the show, and so the show was a disaster. And those are, like I said, I think of those as illegitimate complaints because, like,
Right.
really, if you're complaining about that, there's nothing that I can do. And like, I think that it's a combination of we've kind of informed people about what the show is. So the people that are coming that are expecting us to have, oh, here's the 300 arcade games or whatever, are not expecting that they're going to like, we don't post a game list because I have no idea what's going to show up until they show up because
Right.
most of it is individual collectors.
Right.
And even with the games that I bring, I brought 2 games this year, Beat Mania, that we were like, oh, these are going to be great. We got them there and we could not get them started. So they just sat there broken the whole weekend. And like that happens. And you have to be okay with that at our show. And I talk about how like people are making these risks with this. And I think that the majority of our audience now gets that. And so there's nobody who's sitting there going like, oh, I was really disappointed because, like I said, Zookeeper wasn't there, which by the way is a good game. And they had it at Quarter Arcade, which is why I was thinking of that.
So, not getting too far into the weeds here, kind of staying on the same subject. It's always good to look back, and looking back wasn't that far. It was only a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
I apologize for interrupting you, but if anybody's watching this on video and you just saw my face go crazy right as he was asking this question, it's because my cat just spiked me. Sorry. Otherwise, people are going to be like, it's right as you had said something like, I do want to ask one other question. And my eyes got real big for a second. And people are going to be like, what was that about? And that
It's
was
always
about
about
my cat.
spiking the cat.
Just decided to wake up and spike the heck out of my leg to get off. So sorry.
Don't you love that how they just
Yep.
get in there?
Yep. He
Yep.
was totally asleep. And then all of a sudden, spike gone. So sorry, Jason.
That's
Go ahead.
all right. I understand. Now, going back a couple weeks, it's been, it's definitely been a couple weeks since the show. Even though with all the things that have gone right with the show, is there anything, we're going to start with Matt, is there
Oh,
anything
boy.
that you would like to change and improve for the 25th anniversary show in 2026?
Oh, I have a lot of ideas. Dan and I have spoken about a few things, but I just always want to, without trying to go into too much detail, it's how can we always keep just enhancing the fan experience, right? Like from the biggest things to the smallest things. Like I'm the guy that when the show is done, I write literally a list and of the little things. And I just want to have more visuals at the event next year for fans. And I love surprises. And so does Dan. We have come to learn we love doing surprises. I want more surprises at MGC next year than ever before. I don't know if that's like an improvement, but it's like, I feel like it's a fan enhancement thing. I just
So,
want to enhance.
a good question. I'm going to interrupt you here. Fan enhancement. A really good fan enhancement for this year was finding the QR codes for
Yes.
Six Flags Great America deal that we had going, the passes and whatnot. How do you think that worked out? Do you have numbers with that? Can you share with our podcast audience how you think that went?
We had hundreds of entrants for that. I drew them, I don't know, like a week ago-ish, and everybody was really excited to get them. It's interesting too, because about half of the entrants scanned the first one, and then that was it. And then you could tell that there was people that were really dedicated to it
Yep.
because for every scan, every QR code that you found, they scanned additional ones or they would get additional entries. And so I could see the entries and there were people that like I said, there was people that were like, oh, scanned one, or like maybe they were there for 2 days. So scan one Saturday, one Sunday. And then there were people that were scanned 6, 6, 6 for Six Flags each day.
That's
And
awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, and then it was also funny because a lot of the times the people that had scanned all six each day were in like bands, and that was because they were in a group of like four people that really took the time to go through and scan everything. Um, and so that was great. And one of the things that's just unique about that, I mean, other than the fact that I don't know of many other shows that do anything like that, the other thing that was unique was it really did get people talking about it. We had people that I was told would go to like the merchandise area and would be like, okay, so this one says this, and I couldn't find it there. So do you think it could be that or whatever? And like they would talk with people. And I know one of the guys who we work with who goes by Q, uh he had a group that came up and the hint was something about the arcade in Two Rivers. And so this was Heroes Venture Arcade. We put a QR code with them. When we did that, it was as they were moving in. So this QR code was placed for, I forget if it was Saturday or Sunday. And when they were moving in, we had decided that, oh yeah, we're going to put a QR code there. That would be fun to do. And you can see like the big dragon and it says Heroes Venture. So people will be able to find this. And the hint was like the arcade from Two Rivers. So if you look up Arcade Two Rivers on Google, it'll say Heroes Venture. Okay, cool. This is pretty easy to find, we figured. The thing that we didn't account for was that they put QR codes for information to the arcade on every single game. And so
Oh.
the challenge for that one was that you had to figure out which one was our QR code. Now our
Wow.
QR code had the Six Flags logo also on it, so you could find it. But yeah, it was definitely something that worked out. Um, and actually, just to rewind slightly to what was said before, as for next year, what I would say is that like I people that are not me get to focus on like different aspects of it. So like Matt says the fan experience because he does the stage and the entertainment and stuff like that. For me, it's always just about finding a way to give more people a voice to share what they love to do. And we've already had a few groups reach out and say, hey, have you ever thought about having whatever at the show? And that's how it always starts that we add
Mhm.
stuff because after I hear that, I say, yeah, well, I mean, I would love to, but I can't do that. Can you? And like in one case, we had someone that I found out this year came in and they sat down with I don't want to say what it is because I don't yet have contact with the person, but they sat down near the chess area with something that was similar to chess and taught people this game the whole weekend. And the chess people were like, we need to get this guy back. It would be so awesome. He can be like beside us and it can be something new. And we were like, wow, that's really cool. And so like it's that type of stuff where we can have more of those people come back and just expand further what's going on. And I mean, this last year, we expanded to have Game Together Milwaukee have a huge room. We expanded to have Guys, Games, and Beer had more room. We had the Tabletop Village more than doubled in size. The panel room more than doubled in size. There was a full laser tag out in the hallway, which we didn't even like. It there's a long story about why they ended up down the hallway further than what they should have been, but they were still over the moon. They had more than 300 people that had participated, or 300 groups that had participated throughout the weekend.
People loved it.
Yep. And it's just now, this next year, we're going to be able to take some of that stuff and refine and do stuff like that. One thing that I know of that we're definitely going to be refining is that the cosplay area had a hugely positive response this last year. Um, there was just some little details that we kind of missed because it's the first year of it. And like I was there was a girl who was doing or a woman who was doing a panel and she was awesome. And because we didn't have chairs, there was a few people kind of standing and watching, but like they were supposed to have chairs and I don't know where the chairs went. And like I went to her afterwards and was like, thank you so much for doing this. Like your presentation was amazing. And she was really touched about it because she was like, there was only like two people here. And I was like, yeah, but next year there won't be because we know what we're doing now. We can fix that. And she has already said that she's in for next year for helping and for getting more people to do it, which that's the spirit that makes the show what it is. And so I expect that next year we'll have a big explosion of cosplay stuff.
Yeah, getting back to, because we went over it just quite quickly, the panel room. I have to say that the time that I've been with MGC, I've seen an ebb and flow with the panel room and the individual panels themselves, where we'd have a panel that was full, and we'd have a panel that was half full, and then we'd have another panel that was quarter full, or maybe even less. This year was the first year that I can legitimately say that almost every panel that we had was full.
Right.
There were JP counted, we had 350 chairs in that room, and almost all the time those 350 chairs were full.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it shows the maturation of the event, to use a big word,
mhm.
of like one of the things that's always been difficult that I explain this to people about finding your way to any timed event at the show is that MGC kind of gives you ADHD, where it's like you go from thing to thing. And if you're going to walk, let's say that you're up in the vendor hall and you want to walk down to the panel room, your walk is going to take you past the game center. It's going to take you past Tetris. It's going to take you past people sword fighting with lightsabers. And I forgot. It's going to take you past featured artist alley. It's going to take you past the stuff in the hallway or vendors on your way out of the hall, depending on which hallway you leave from. It's going to take you past the gaming jukebox. Any one of these things. Oh, and there was an escape room, or there was 3 escape rooms on your way. And so each of those things is something where someone can be like, wait, what is that? And then your group pauses. And so one of the issues that we've always had with panels and presentations and stuff like that is just like getting people to know when they're happening, to make the time to make their way there. And this year it was a combination, I think, of we had really great panels, and we've had really great panels in the past. We had really great panels. We communicated them better to people. And then the third part of it that I think is just as important is that we were very careful in making sure that I guess that the way that I would put it is that we were careful in making sure that the panels were not like plopping on top of other things that would distract people as much. We did a better job of not having things that people would want to do at the same time intersect each other. And so, and the other side of it too is that we had stuff that was really high interest. So if you were a person that was interested in one topic specifically, there was almost definitely one thing that you would really want to go to. And it wasn't necessarily that it's like you had 10 things that you were like kind of interested in. It was likely that you had one thing that you were like, that is the thing that I want to see. And that also helps ensure that people arrive.
Well, 3 things that I thought were helpful was, one, the location. Having it down at the end where it was a high traffic area, and usually it was either the last or it was the first thing that people saw, and it was right there at that corner instead of being in the middle where it's been for many years. And that location had right around the corner where that office used to be is now a place where people can relax and get snacks and whatnot. So that helped as
Right.
well. And then the other thing, which we started doing a couple years ago, which is now part of the Baird Center, the how their decorations is that they have the panels, the TVs outside, right? So we
Mhm.
started doing that a couple years ago. We were replacing our own TVs in front, and now they have their own, and they're right there. And I saw so many people. I'd go out to the hallway, and there was always somebody or several people in front of that little TV trying to figure out when the panels were at a certain time. So those
Yeah.
things had seen personally really help.
Yep, and that was a new thing this year that they added those digital signage to the center, and they only told us, sorry, Matt, they only told us like 4 or 5 days before the show, oh, hey, you can put graphics on these. And I apologize to Matt because he's the one that had to very quickly throw together like 10 rooms of graphics. And then I also showed up on, I forget if it was Wednesday or Thursday, but I was walking through, and that was the first time I had not been told that Tabletop Village or Game Center or the other exhibit hall, vendor
Vendor
hall,
hall.
had anything. So I was like, Matt, can you make 3 more? Because we need them.
On
And
Thursday.
yep. And so, yeah, so Thursday before the show, we did that. The good news is now we know about all this stuff. We can make them for next year right now.
And
So,
I can make them a lot better.
yeah.
Yeah, well, you did a great job, Matt. You always do. You're a really good graphic artist,
I
and
appreciate it.
it looked great.
The one thing real quick is I know Jason again, he's the host and he's asking us all the questions. But
Oh, I want
man,
to ask him a question too. We'll
okay,
save this the
cool.
same
But
one.
okay, I may probably need that. All right, you got to do the panel room all weekend. You're the panel director. You saw every panel.
Yeah.
Which one was your favorite?
That was going to be my question.
Oh, okay. Ha
Oh, wow. The Jonah Ray one was hilarious. I think that was probably the top one. I enjoyed that one a lot. Everybody in the whole room was rolling. I mean, I hadn't seen a panel room. It was a full panel room, by the way. So, I mean, there
Yeah,
was
it really
about
was.
350 people there. Yeah, Dan was there. He saw how many people were in there, and that place was just rolling. I mean, the one thing, Jonah wanted me to turn the lights down, and I said, well, I am filming this. So, he goes, well, I kind of wanted to have like a nightclub kind of thing going on. I said, well, I am filming. So he goes, okay, I understand that you're filming. I'm like, okay. So, but anyways, besides I mean, that was great. I mean, it was funny and people it was a great release for a lot of people, I think. And then next was the Devil May Cry panel. I mean, that was really cool.
I got to pop in that room for 10 minutes. That was great.
And then the Aptbow,
Yep.
Oh yeah.
they were really cool because I didn't expect the way that they put their panel together as far as basically plucking people from the audience, having them go up front and deliver lines as
Yeah.
like
So real quick, just to clarify what Jason's talking about, their panel, their idea for it was let's come up with scripts and have people come up and then they'll do whatever the voice actor script is, and then we'll give them ideas because they all do voice acting for the AFMAO channel. And I just a quick aside, I was under the impression that this would be all like 5-year-olds that were doing this because AFMAO is a channel that's aimed more for younger kids. And from what I was told, that wasn't the type of people that were doing it. Jason, tell us about some of the people that did it.
well, there were some, the age range kind of ran the gamut from uh, a small child of 10 or 12 on up through teenagers, on up through an older gentleman. So there was, a wide age range of people, and it was really, really cool. And then you know what? I am not going to spoil the ending of that because I want people to watch the podcast to see what the ending is. And it
Yep,
is a very cool ending. And
that's fair. I heard about it being a great
two
ending.
people show
So,
up at the end, and it's cool.
yeah, I will just add to that what I heard was that some of the people that came up there had done like community theater and stuff like
Yes.
that. So it
That's
wasn't
awesome.
just like I was really expecting for that panel that it would be mostly people that had never even thought about doing this before. But it sounded like part of what made that panel so powerful was that it was really like people coming and learning as part of it. And
Yes.
so, yeah,
Education.
yeah. Well, and like it's again just a quick backstory and how unique Midwest Gaming Classic I think can be. The one of the three of those guys, Eric, last year contacted us and said, "Hey, I came to the show and it was awesome. Is there any way that I can participate and like have a table and do something?" And he was like, I don't want to just like sit at a table and sign stuff. I'd like to do like builds against people and stuff like that. And so we said, yeah. And we put him at this place in the museum and he was over the moon about it. And so he told some of the other people that voice acted on the show about how great it was. And they were like, oh my God, we need to come to that. And so instead of it being built on a relationship of them being there just to do autographs or whatever, it was built on we want to do interactions with people. And that's where the idea for this panel came from. And it was, like I said, it's really unique because I think that our show gives people a comfort level to go out and to take risks that a lot of other shows don't. And a lot of just other life doesn't in many ways. Like if I'm going to go out and I'm going to stand up in front of a bunch of people that I don't know and like do voice acting, I'm going to be super self-conscious. But at our show is so like, hey, come do whatever you want to do, and we're going to all support you. And I think that helped feed that one to the level that it was at, because that one was one that I think I even told them, this is a great idea. I'm not sure if it's going to work. And from what I heard is that it didn't just work, it was amazing.
Yes, it was. And another thing that was amazing was Sunday morning. We had Leah Montalongo and John Parrish, two Mortal Kombat actors, exercising and having a group of people exercise with them. It's the first time we've had that done. And I actually think that if we can have them for next year to do that, we could have it possibly on a stage, on the big stage, or somewhere where they have more room in it, can have more people in there. But
Yeah.
that was really cool. And I did film that, and I think I'm going to have a little bit of it at the end of their panel. I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure that out.
Well, and I can tell you that that one came together, and you're aware of this. That one came together so late in the game that it was something that was kind of like, ooh, are we even going to be able to promote this in time? And they were like, it's okay if we just get a couple people there, it'll be fine. And so we pulled it off. We made it work because, like, some of their original stuff that they wanted to do was just kind of like, shoot, I'm not going to be able to pull that off the way that we're thinking because, like, I just don't have the resources at the times that we're talking about. And it worked out, and it was awesome. And one of the other things that's awesome that I haven't yet fully gone through myself is that we've had since the show, and this is news to both of you guys, we've had since the show, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different people reach out to me and say, hey, could I come to your show next year? And these are people that are like kind of like the AFMO people, they're voice actors or celebrities in some type. And instead of them just saying, hey, I want to come to your show, they're sending me ideas. This is what I would like to do at the show. Wouldn't it be cool if I did this? What if I did this as a workshop or whatever? And like, I don't know exactly what will work out because there's a lot of other things that go into all of that. So I'm not making any particular announcements here. But I've not had that in the past. I usually have people come to me and say, or I'm interested in coming to your show. And usually those people are the ones that don't really understand what our show is. They just see you have 38,000 people at your show. Clearly, I should come and just like sit at a table and sign autographs. And like that works to an extent at our show, but that's not what the heart of our show is. The heart of our show is those interactions and stuff like that. And so having people write to me and say, I've got this idea and this is what I'd like to set up has been truly unique and honestly really exciting and exhilarating as a follow-up to what we've got from this year's show. And I think portends really well toward what the show will look like next year and whatever those surprises are.
Well, hopefully next year, I mean, hopefully sometime maybe starting this June, July, August, we can start talking about the workshops and maybe getting the workshops out there and, getting, I know the workshops can improve, and I know that there's interest there. We just need to get it out sooner because that was, part of the issue this year, and hopefully get some not really better choices, but maybe more choices of the type of workshops. So again, the interest is there as well, but hopefully we can start things maybe a little sooner this year.
Right. What I will say about workshops is that, and again, thank you for spearheading that, because the issue that we've always had with workshops is that there's a lot of people that come in with ideas and we've never been able to truly cultivate them. And this year, we were still not really able to cultivate them, but we were able to get them close to being able to cultivate them. And I think that next year, that's what the difference is going to be. And so if anybody doesn't understand what I mean, I simply mean that like we have a lot of what the show is people coming up with ideas, and then like I'll talk with them to figure out both what their idea really is, figure out how to best present it, and then present it. Workshops have traditionally been an issue because it's people coming up with a workshop saying, this is what I'm going to do, and then us kind of being like, okay, and just hoping that it's going to work out. And now that you, Jason, have been able to start interacting with some of those people on a different basis, I think that the difference that we're going to have is that not just can we go, ooh, you know what would be a cool workshop to have? What about if we did this? What about if we did that? But I think that we can also now go back to people and say, hey, instead of presenting it this way, what about if you did this? Because there's certain things with, and like all the workshops are great. So don't get me wrong when I say any of this. However, there were small tweaks that I feel like some of them could have done that would have vastly improved things. And the only real difference that we had was that those small tweaks that we usually, this is why the show takes so much organization. We hold people's hands and say, hey, I'll give you a brief story that's not about workshops. I had a company come to me this year that developed a really cool tool. And they were on the landing. I'm gonna forget their name and I don't know if I should use it anyway. So if you know who it is, great. And if not, great. And if they don't want me to use their name, I'm not talking about them. But so they developed this app where you sat down and you could scan like a bunch of games and it would give you a price range for what those games were.
Oh.
And it was really cool. And when we started talking, the way that they first started talking to me, it sounded like they had like just tons of money. And I was just kind of like, I don't really understand what you're talking about, but if you're just going to throw tons of money at it, like, I guess I'll just find a spot and let you do whatever you're going to do because the groups that have tons of money generally come up with like, here's my plan as to what I'm going to present. And then it's been, stress tested or whatever through different groups, focus tested, and then they do it and it works or it doesn't. And like those groups, we kind of just go like, okay, like you go do your own thing. And you'll notice that Midwest Gaming Classic does not have tons of like sponsored groups like that when you go through the show. That's just not where our bread and butter is. But that's kind of how I thought that they were doing. Well, they came in and they were like, no, this is the first show that we're going to go to. And so what do you think about if we present things this way? What if you think about we present things this way? And like I worked with them very carefully to figure out like, hey, when you do this, think about these issues and think about putting this here. And like I sell games on JJ Games. And so like I was like, if like someone picks up a pile of games and they are like perfectly mint copies of, let's say, GameCube games, and they scan them and they go, well, you want these games for $100, but this app says that they're worth 75. I'm going to be really annoyed at the app and be like, yeah, that app sucks. Don't use it because my games are perfectly mint. And there is a big difference between a perfectly mint game and a game that isn't in what you're willing to buy. And so like I was talking to them about like, hey, make sure that you're doing that because you want everybody to be on your side. You want the people that are selling games to be on your side. You want the people that are buying games to be on the side. Want the collectors to be on your side. And they were like, this is great. And they kept being like, this is so awesome. Thank you for doing this. And that's really what we do with everybody. And anyway, back to workshops, we just haven't been able to do that with workshops because like it's been something where, like I said, it's most of the people that come and are just like, here's the workshop, it's done. And then it's like, well, okay, shoot, we should probably do this so that we can match it with our audience in a better way. And again, that's not to say that the workshops are bad. I already have people that did them that are coming to me this year going, oh my God, I have great ideas for next year. I literally had someone that texted me today and said, when should I start bothering you about next year? I already sent you 2 emails, but I don't want to bother you too much. And I was like, it's fine. I just have had a bunch of stupid stuff go on in my life. That's the only reason that I haven't responded. Otherwise, I like the emails. I just haven't responded. And they were like, oh, good, because we've got even more ideas. And so I think that we're really going to be able to take this and supercharge it soon.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, it's an area that is, relatively new to the show. We've only done it for what, 2 or 3 years?
Yep.
So it definitely has room for growth, and it definitely will grow as long as we, keep working at it and, make it a priority. And speaking of growing, now, I do not know if you can talk about, but maybe in a roundabout way, you can let our viewers know about how many people came to MGC this year.
I actually mentioned it before. Matt, did you catch it? Because I don't know that I've even told you guys.
Okay, no, you and I have talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can go ahead. Say it again.
This year we hit 38,000 people.
Okay.
So that was an increase from 2024 when we did 31,000 and an increase of 2023 when we did 24,000. So just in the last 2 years, we've added 14,000 more people to the show. And it's interesting because there was a period of time where I'll say it like this. It's interesting because the goal of Midwest Gaming Classic has always been to share people's passions with as many people as possible. And we have always had this fascinating growth trajectory, where we have gained 20 to 30% attendance kind of every year since the dawn of the show, other than the COVID impacted years. It's funny because if you take out, there's like 2 or 3 years directly after COVID. If you take those out, you can copy and paste the years and they go perfectly up in the same general line. And it's fascinating because, like, this year, the difference between 31,000 and 38,000 in a sheer number of people is so much larger than the difference in, you know, we did, I think it was 17, no, we did 19,000 and then 24,000, and that's 5,000. And so adding 7,000 is, it's impressive. And it's impressive to be able to do that on a regular basis. This year was the first time on Saturday we had over 20,000 people on site on a single day. And so that was an exciting milestone to hit. And like I said, the key metric for me more than anything else is, are those people there able to enjoy themselves? And like I mentioned before, usually after the show we have complaints that are like, yep, that's something that we can look for next year, and then complaints that are like, oh well, that's silly, we're not going to be able to do anything with that, sorry. And this year, without having that, it means that we were able to add 7,000 more people that not just understood what the show was, but it wasn't a detriment to anything that was going on at the show itself. And so that's hugely positive, and it really helps with the overall health of the show. I haven't been I've been very candid about this, is that COVID hit and absolutely sucked for the show. And it was a multi-year thing that I would argue that it wasn't until this year that we actually kind of came out of, because we lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. We had to take out hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of loans. We had to get on top of all of that stuff. And for a while, there was two different shows that we barely made enough to scrape by on. And it's not like I have a money bin behind me that I get to go jump in and swim around in after this is over.
You're not Scrooge McDuck?
I'm not Scrooge McDuck, even though the show did well this year. But the difference is that in the past shows, in general, after the show is over, I have to be so very careful about, like, oh God, exactly how much money do we have? And are we going to be able to stretch this money to last for next year? And like, just in general, we have enough right now that we're able to do certain things that are going to help us for next year. For instance, we're looking at trying to push some shirts into production early, because one of the things that the tariffs are going to do likely is raise the price of shirts. And so if we can produce a few hundred shirts now, that will allow us to keep the prices lower for people next year. And like, that's something that traditionally we wouldn't have been able to do. And so the additional people have helped smooth it out to the point that it does not feel like I don't have to try to explain to people why I'm a psychopath that tries to run the show, because in the past it used to kind of be like something that people don't understand is that the show is mid five figures to run. It was over $500,000 in expenses to run the show. And a lot of people look at it and they're like, it's probably a few $100,000 to run, if that. And it's like, oh God, no, like, it is so much more than that. And a huge part of that is just, again, how we are oddly structured compared to other shows. We spend the same, if not more than what other shows do, even though we're presenting other people's stuff, because we're helping to subsidize their infrastructure. We're helping to bring in TVs or tables, and like the tables for Tabletop Village, for instance, we put all those play mats on them. And they are great, but that is a cost, not just in making the table mats, but then in having people that unroll them, and then in having people roll them back up, and then in buying a couple of carts that are big enough to take them back. Oh, and it turns out the carts weren't heavy duty enough, so we put them on pallets, which means I had to buy a pallet jack. And like, the pallet jack is currently in my garage because this year we were able to afford that at the end. And so this is my kind of thank you to everybody in the last few years who has told a friend or reminded someone that they enjoyed going to this show, or that stopped out and checked it out, or even if you just watch on YouTube or you get the emails and you read them, it helps. It helps us continue the mission of sharing people's passions with other people. And I talked about this in the last time, but it's true. And it was funny. We mentioned Amon Green, and I said this story in front of Amon Green, and he was like, "This is exactly what I'm talking about." I used the example of when I was a kid and I played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And you could have someone come up and they put the quarter in whatever slot that you weren't. Obviously, Donatello, who was who you should be. So whatever other slot there was, you put that quarter into it. And then you were instantly a team. Oh, hey, you have less health than me. Get that pizza. Watch your back. That guy's coming after you. After the game's over, I could walk away from the game and I could be like, oh man, thank you for giving me that pizza, like right when I needed it.
That's
Or,
how
oh,
you meet new people that way, and sometimes they can become lifelong friends.
exactly. And that's what is so unique about the show is that we really believe that to our core. It's not just something that I say. I had someone come up to me and say that they had a really rough year last year for reasons that I will not get into because it's personal. But they said that the people that they met at the show were a huge part of how they pulled through. And like we have this really unique relationship with different people in different groups. And sometimes I forget exactly how we have people that join into us, but like one of our major people that helps do stuff, one of our major staffers came a couple of years like back they came when we were at the Sheraton, and they were helping move trucks. They were on the truck moving team. And she comes back every year to help run the show now. And not part of the truck moving team, part of the Midwest Gaming Classic team, because she was like, this is so awesome. I just want to be part of this. And our show's different in that way. And it makes it truly unique. And it's an honor to put it together because of that. And yeah, and so anyway, all of this is to kind of return to the fact that we had a really huge attendance. It really helped, and it's going to help us to get materials and make sure that we can afford to expand and grow into the future. And so, whether you came out or whether you just support the show, thank you for making it happen because I think it's important. I think that there's a moment in time right now where we need to meet more people and do more things in real life, and that's really healthy to do. And we have a lot of people who have decided that making us yell at each other online is better for their bottom line. And I don't think that that's the best thing for people. I have removed most social media things from my devices because I find that when I get involved in them, I tend to scroll in them for a while and then feel really bad about myself afterwards. And I think that the way to combat that is to have something mutual that you can come and do. And then afterwards, you can be like, oh, hey, let's talk about whatever is the topic of the day, whether it's politics or whatever. You have a shared like interest. And so it's kind of like the olden days. In the olden days, if there was a Republican and a Democrat, they weren't automatically fighting each other. Sometimes they were like, oh, well, this is what I believe, and that's what I believe. And they were like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Now, online has taught us we just scream at each other basically right
Yep.
away. But like, if you actually get to talk to people, you might learn that the other side is really not that much different than what your side is. And that's the way that we actually make things better. We make things better through compromising and listening, not through forcing other people to do whatever. And so I think that the show is a beacon to that, and it's because everybody kind of gets together and believes it. And we have gaming that is the thing that we can all do and talk about and share.
Brings us all together. Yeah, the love of gaming is what brings us all together.
Yeah.
And in closing for this evening's podcast, I'd like to ask first Matt, what can you talk about? What little tidbit of something what kind of little carrot can you mention about the 25th anniversary 2026 Midwest Gaming Classic?
Oh, I said it in my post that I made a few weeks ago on my personal social medias. It's gonna be bigger and louder than ever before. And this is not just some anniversary. It's a big deal. And we're gonna make it bigger than ever before. From the main stage to the guests to what the fans can experience. So all I'm gonna say is, if you haven't bought your tickets, buy them now.
Bigger, badder, and louder. All right. And Dan, what can you share with our podcast community?
I have never, we are literally still, as we record this, over 1 year out from when the show is going to be held. I have never,
369 days.
thank you. Nice. I have never this far out had so many people that have reached out already to say, I have great ideas for next year. And we have already talked with certain groups about things that we can do as tributes to the show. We have talked with different groups about things that we can do as like what they can bring to the table. And I think that you're going to have a really, really interesting year. I do think that some of it will be in some ways self-celebratory, if you will. Um, so the show started as a Jaguar show, and we have a number of people that want to lean into continuing it as a Jaguar show, and I am here to support that. And I have already we're more or less like 75% confirmed on some really awesome tributes to how the show started. And it won't just be that though, because like I said, I mean, we have people that are already talking about how Tabletop Village is going to grow next year. We have people talking about what we're going to do on the stages to add new stuff for cosplay. We have people talking about a little bit of everything. And I I think that next year, the only issue that we're going to have is trying to figure out where we can put everything.
As as usual.
As usual, but to a different extent. Next year, we don't get to add as much space as we did this year because there's a long story here. We'll just say we have as much space as we were allowed to get for this coming year. And we are looking at ways that we could expand our footprint even further to an extent. But we're still going to have that kind of random stuff in the hallway type things that people appreciate. And the one other thing that I'll just add in, and it's not a negative. We have been teamed up with a different show for the past, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, CypherCon. And CypherCon is awesome. They're a security conference that's about like they're a professional like cybersecurity conference. And CypherCon is great, but CypherCon has really, really grown. And so have we. And one of the things that's been really difficult is that on Fridays, when we start switching over rooms, especially in the 100 and the 200 levels, we are switching them from CypherCon that closes later and later because they have more people. This year, CypherCon closed at 5, and our event starts at 6. Some of the rooms did not get turned over to us until past midnight on Friday. So because of that, we weren't able to fully have stuff up and running on Friday night. And this isn't to say that everything's going to be running on Friday night. We call it a preview night for a reason. But it will allow us to have groups that want to start earlier be able to start earlier. It will also allow us to have groups that want to go bigger be able to go bigger because they have more time to set stuff up instead of the kind of breakneck, like, oh God, throw everything into the room and let people in. We had some groups that got the room turned over to them at 4:30 and were open by 6. And so like it would be a lot better for us to make it so that those groups don't have to work at that speed.
Right. Yes, I completely agree. And hats off to CypherCon for growing and being able to kind of drift away or split away from piggybacking off of MGC, and now we're at a point where they can have their own dates and we can have our own dates, and
Yep.
for both for the conference and for the convention, that's going to work out really well for both.
Yeah, it'll work out well for them too. I'm actually candidly excited about it because I used to go to CypherCon before they combined with us.
Right.
And then it turns out I have no time. I was actually one of their like keynote speakers one year. And now I'll be able to go to CypherCon again. I think the last time I went to CypherCon was 2017. So yeah, it's like I said, it's not a bad thing. I was literally talking with their organizer earlier today. And it's good for both groups, and I think it's just time. And quite frankly, I don't know that we would be here. In fact, I would say that we wouldn't be here without CypherCon. So there's absolutely no like, oh God, they suck type of anything. It's just we're both ready for it.
All right. Well, Matt and Dan, thank you once again for being on the podcast. And hopefully we can have you on again anytime when you feel that you have the time. Come on to the podcast, maybe give a little bit of a teaser here and there. And, love to have you back, of course.
Absolutely.
So,
always down.
And thanks for doing this.
Yes, thank you.
Just as a quick aside, one of the other things that makes us unique is that like I had someone that said to me at this year's show, wait, we do a podcast? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, oh my God, that's so cool. Other shows don't do a podcast. And I was like, yeah, we do a podcast. And so like, this is a unique thing that I think that we're going to be able to really grow also this year now that we can really take some time to focus on it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going into season 4, and season 4, of course, is going to have, 13 episodes. The first one being this actual podcast episode that people are watching right now about, how things went this year. And then it'll be all the panels. And so, there'll be 13 episodes for season 4. And they will be on YouTube, Twitch, and Spotify and Apple Podcasts all at the same time. They will be released at the same time. And as a matter of fact, on YouTube and Twitch, they will be premieres.
Nice.
Sweet.
So, I'll be there and talking to people and answering people's questions and whatnot. So, that'll be the new thing this year is the premieres. So I will always be, there with that. So, but I'm debating if I'm going to have it either Tuesday or Wednesday nights. Is there a particular time that you two would like it to be on?
It does not matter to me. Tuesday nights, I think Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights are actually perfect for people to tune into something. It's the nice middle of the week. I count Tuesday as middle of the week. I think it gives something for people to look forward to during the week.
Yeah, I don't have any particular one on either time either. Whatever works best for you. And I don't know if maybe we throw it out to our audience and say, hey, what works
Which
better
day
for
would
you?
it rather have the premieres on?
Yeah, I mean, that would probably be a good idea to put up on the socials and ask them, hey,
Yes.
Season 4 is in the works, and I'm thinking that this is probably season 4 may premiere because I'm working on everything right now. Maybe either the 6th or 7th of May.
Cool.
So,
We can get this out on socials.
in a couple weeks.
Awesome.
So, all right, Dan, Matt, thank you once again for being on the podcast. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and game on.
Woohoo!
All right.
Sweet.
And there you go. That was Dan Lucen and Matt Isbill of the Midwest Gaming Classic going over with yours truly about what happened or some of the things that happened at the 2025 show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope to see you at the 2026 25th anniversary show. It's going to be something special, and I hope you don't miss it. And you know what? Until next time, take care, stay safe, and game on.